Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us again for learning key signatures. Today, we're going to be naming all of the sharp major keys and building sharp major scales based off of those keys. If you've memorized the order of sharps, it will be much easier to read your band, choir, and orchestra music. It'll be a lot easier to sight read any new piece of music in front of you, and hopefully you use this information to help memorize your scales. This time, we will learn how to easily name your sharp key signature and build sharp scales using the musical alphabet that you already know. Quick reminder about major and minor keys. Major is the happy version with its resting tone on do, and minor is the sad or spooky version with its resting tone on la. This week, we're going to be focusing exclusively on major scales. Scales are a sequence of notes played within a given key signature. This week, we are going to go up 8 notes and down 8 notes as well. We introduced half steps last week, but we should define it this week. Half steps, also known as a semitone, are the smallest increment in Western music, so it's always the next closest possible note on your instrument. For example, on a piano, it would be the nearest note to the note that you're already playing. And for a band or orchestra instrument, it would be the next note over in your fingering chart. So not necessarily changing the letter every time, but it's just the next closest note. Remember, the name of the key signature matters. Every piece has a resting tone that has a sort of harmonic gravity that makes melodies want to start and end on that note. And that note will be the name of the key. In most choirs, we call that resting tone do, especially when it's a major key. In most bands and orchestras, we call that resting tone tonic. The name of the key signature is also the name of the scale that we would play to get ready for that piece. For an example, A major would start and end on A, and the resting tone would also be A. Here are all 8 sharp key signatures, from 0 to 7. Question is, how do you know what the name of the key signature is after you've learned how to identify which sharps there are? Naming sharp keys. Usually, the rule is that all you have to do is look at the last sharp in the key signature, remembering that we read the key signatures from left to right, and then go up a half step from whatever that last sharp was. Having the order of sharps obviously makes this a lot faster. Sometimes there are so many sharps in the key signature that we need to memorize a couple of exceptions to the rule. And just like flat keys, there is one sharp key signature that has no sharps at all, so we're going to have to talk about that too. Let's start with 5. What is the last sharp of the key signature shown here? Well, we've got fat cats go down alleys. A is the last sharp. What do we do with that last sharp? We raise it a half step. What is a half step above A sharp? Well, if you look in your fingering chart, the next note over from A sharp is going to be B. Specifically, it's going to be B natural. So what is the name of this major key over here on the left? The name of that major key is B, because we took the last sharp, which was A, and we went up a half step to B. What note would that major scale start and end on? Well, it would be the name of the key, which is B, so the scale would start on B. And what is the resting tone in the key of B? The resting tone is B. Let's change to 4 sharps this time. What is the last sharp of the key signature here? Fat cats go down. D is the last sharp here. Now we have to go up a half step. What is up a half step from D sharp? The answer is E. Specifically, the answer is E natural. So what is the name of this major key? E. What note would the scale start and end on? E. And what would tonic or resting tone or do be? E. This time we have 3 sharps. What's the last sharp? G sharp. What is a half step up from G sharp? A. So the answer is A. This time we have 2 sharps. What's the last sharp here? C sharp. So what is a half step up from C sharp? The answer is D. So the answer to all the questions on this page is D. This time we only have 1 sharp. Easy to find. If there's only 1 sharp, it's always F sharp. What is a half step up from F sharp? G. So the name of this key is G. Now we start to get a little bit more complicated. Let's still start with finding the last sharp though. The last sharp here is E sharp. This is where it gets a little bit complicated. A half step up from E sharp is not F. A half step up from E sharp is F sharp. And we have a hint here because in this key signature, F was already sharp. So that's a really good hint. You see that arrow? Since F is already sharp, this is the key of F sharp. It is not the key of F. If you remember from last time, the funky key of F has 1 flat, and well, there's no flats here. So that's a really big hint. This key is called F sharp. Did you notice that the key of F sharp is the first sharp key that has the word sharp in its name? Because we had E and B, D, A, C. None of those have the word sharp in their name. However, when there are 6 sharps, it is the key of F sharp. This time, we're going to deal with all 7 sharps. What is the last of all 7 sharps? Fat cats go down alleys eating birds, so we know our last sharp is B. What is a half step above that? This is where it gets a little bit complicated again. A half step above B sharp is not C. A half step above B sharp is C sharp. Again, you can find this in your fingering chart or on a piano, but there's a really big hint here. We know that this can't be the key of C because the key of C has 0 sharps, not 7. So if you see 7 sharps, you are in the key of C sharp. This arrow is serving as a reminder. Did you notice that the key of C sharp is the only other sharp key so far that has the word sharp in its name? What is the last sharp here? Trick question. There are no sharps. So if I see no flats and I see no sharps, then I'm in the key of C. Did you notice that the key of C is the only key where all 7 notes are natural? That's because there are no flats and there are no sharps. Now we're going to practice building scales off of those key signatures. Just like last time, we're going to have 8 notes in total. We're going to move up 1 letter at a time until we get to the starting letter, and then we're going to go down 1 letter at a time until we get to the starting letter. Remember that starting letter is always the name of the key. The first, middle, and last notes of the scale will always be the name of the key signature. And you need to include any flats or sharps given by the key signature itself. This one's easy. What is the last sharp here? Oops, there are no sharps. If you see no flats and you see no sharps, then you're in the key of C. So when we're building a scale, that means we got to start with the letter C. You'll notice that there are no sharps and no flats in this scale, and that's because there's no sharps or flats in the key signature. It's all natural. What is the last sharp of this key signature? Well, there's only one, easy to find. It's F sharp. What is a half step up from F sharp? G. So that's what our scale is going to start on, G. We got to remember to substitute that F sharp in where F would belong. So we have G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And taking it backwards, G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, G. And that's our G major scale. What is the last sharp of this key signature? It's C sharp. What's a half step up from C sharp? D. So what is this scale going to start on? It's going to start on a D. You'll notice that we included F sharp and C sharp in this scale because it was in the key signature. This time, 3 sharps. What's the last sharp? G sharp. What is a half step up from G sharp? A. So that's the letter we're going to start on for our scale. You'll notice that F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp are all found in this scale instead of the natural versions because it's in the key signature. 4 sharps, what are they? Fat cats go down, meaning the last sharp is D sharp. What's a half step up from D sharp? The answer is E. So the scale is going to start on an E. Include all 4 sharps, and you get your final answer. 5 sharps, what's the last sharp in that key? A sharp. What is a half step up from A sharp? B. So that's what the scale starts on B. We need to include all 5 sharps, and there's your scale. B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B. What's the last sharp of this key signature? Remember, this is one of the complicated ones. Since there are 6 sharps, we have to pay close attention. The last sharp is E. What is a half step up from E sharp? The answer is F sharp. Be careful that you don't start this scale on F because it has to start on F sharp due to the key signature. There they are. Since F sharp's already in the key signature, that's what we're going to start on. F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp. That means the only note that's not sharp in this key is B. Here are all 7 sharps. What's the last one? B sharp. We just talked about that note. Raise it a half step and you get C sharp. Be careful that you remember that a half step up from B sharp is not C. It's C sharp. There it is. C sharp is already there, so we have to obey it, and that will be the starting note. Notice that since all 7 sharps are in the key signature, all 7 notes in the scale are going to be sharp. Let's reflect. What are the benefits to knowing the name of the key? How can practicing a scale before you play a piece of music prepare you for greater success with that piece of music? Did you notice a pattern of whole steps and half steps in the scales that we wrote out? Actually, last week we talked about that with flats, and guess what? It's the same pattern again. The blue semicircles represent whole steps. The red diamonds represent half steps. I chose the key of A for the example here. You'll notice that the distance between A and B is a whole step, B and C is a whole step, but the distance between C sharp and D is actually a half step. This pattern of whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half will be true for all major scales, not just flat or sharp major scales. It's literally all of them. And remember, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, where are the half steps? They're always after the syllable that ends in I. Mi ends in I, ti ends in I, and that's how you remember where the half steps are in the solfege scale. Congratulations! Now you know how to name all of the sharp key signatures, and you know how to create all of your sharp scales. You know what that means? It's time to get to practicing and memorizing those scales. Have an absolutely fabulous day.